Have you ever wondered why the Israel-Palestine conflict, a dispute in Western Asia, continues to persist? This complex issue, often referred to as the Israeli-Palestinian struggle or crisis, revolves around the regions of Israel and Palestine located on the western coast. At its core, this conflict is a tangle of geopolitical, religious, and social crises. It has been the cause of ongoing strife and acts of terrorism that have severely affected the people of both nations. The cruelty of this conflict is underscored by the high-profile violent incidents that have taken place, resulting in the death and displacement of millions. This struggle has its roots steeped in a question that dates back to the very inception of these nations. Which national state should exist? A separate Israel or an independent Palestine? This question became even more contentious in the early part of the 20th century when Israel was formed, and the main focus of the dispute was against partial independence of the Palestinians. The conflict took a serious turn when the British Mandate decided to withdraw its military power from Palestine, leading to the formation of an independent Israel and an Arab nation in the region. As a result, millions were forced to relocate, leading to contested lands that have been the subject of dispute ever since. Several wars have occurred over the course of this conflict, involving people from around the world and inciting feelings of anger, sorrow, and controversy among them. This dispute is not only a contentious issue among the international community, but also remains unresolved, with reaching a permanent solution proving to be a difficult task. This conflict has become a focal point for the international community and remains a contentious issue worldwide. The Israel-Palestine conflict is an ongoing and historically violent struggle that continues to draw global attention and remains a thorny issue in world politics. So, how did this conflict come about? Well, the roots of the dispute run deep into history, all the way back to a fundamental question of nationality. Should there be a separate Israel or an independent Palestine? In the early part of the 20th century, the establishment of Israel brought this question to the forefront. The position of Israel, its very existence, was a bone of contention. Simultaneously, the issue of Palestine's partial independence was gaining momentum. The land that was once shared was divided, and the people who once lived together were separated by new borders and new identities. And these were not just any borders. These were lines drawn in the sand of a region rich with cultural, religious, and historical significance. Every inch of land held centuries of memories and generations of lives. The decision to create a separate Jewish state in a predominantly Arab region was bound to stir up a whirlwind of emotions, from anger and resentment to fear and distrust. The early part of the 20th century was a time of monumental change. Empires were falling, nations were rising, and amidst all this, Israel was born. But its birth was not celebrated by all. For many, it represented displacement, disruption, and a disregard for their historical and cultural ties to the land. At the same time, Palestine, a nation with its own distinct culture and history, was left partially independent, caught in the crosshairs of geopolitical maneuvering. A people with a strong sense of national identity were left with a state that was less than they believed they deserved. These early decisions, made in the hallowed halls of power, sowed the seeds of a conflict that would grow into a bitter and enduring struggle. In the heart of the Middle East, two nations were born, but peace was lost in the process. The seeds of the conflict were sown with these early decisions, and as we'll see in the next section, these seeds would soon grow into a conflict that would shape the course of history in the region. The British Mandate of Palestine played a crucial role in the escalation of this conflict. But how? Let's dive in. In the early 20th century, the British Mandate held jurisdiction over Palestine. However, a significant shift occurred when the British decided to withdraw their military power from the region. This decision, though seemingly simple on the surface, had profound implications. With the withdrawal of the British forces, the region witnessed the formation of two separate entities, an independent Israel and an Arab nation. The creation of these two nations wasn't a peaceful transition. It resulted in the displacement of millions of people who found themselves on the wrong side of new borders. This displacement was not just a mass movement of people, but a significant upheaval of lives, cultures, and identities. Imagine the turmoil and confusion of suddenly finding your home in a different country, your identity questioned, your existence contested. That was the reality for millions, as they were forced to leave their homes and lands. These massive shifts in population created contested territories, lands claimed by both Israelis and Palestinians, only fueling the conflict further. But it's important to remember that these contested territories were not just pieces of land. They were homes, they were histories, and they were the crux of cultural identities. The contest over these territories was not just a political struggle, but a deeply personal one for the people involved. This decision by the British Mandate, the withdrawal of their forces and the subsequent formation of Israel and an Arab nation, was a significant turning point in the history of the region. It set into motion a series of events that would lead to recurring conflicts, wars, and a protracted struggle for both national and personal identity. And so, with the stage set and the players in place, the conflict took a life of its own, perpetuating a cycle of violence and dispute that would continue for decades to come. This decision set the stage for a conflict that would continue for decades to come. The Israel-Palestine conflict has seen numerous wars, but what has been their impact? In the wake of this unending dispute, the land of Israel and Palestine has been a battleground for several wars. These battles have drawn in people from all corners of the globe, not just as spectators but as active participants, forever altering the fabric of their lives and the societies they belong to. The wars have been characterized by a kaleidoscope of emotions: anger, sorrow, and controversy. Anger at the perceived injustices, sorrow for the lost lives and the shattered dreams, and controversy over the rights and wrongs of the conflict. The battlefield has been more than just a physical space. It's been an emotional and moral minefield where every step taken has the potential to trigger a new explosion of feelings and debates. The impact of these wars has been profound and far-reaching. Families have been torn apart, homes have been destroyed, and communities have been fractured. The economic cost has been astronomical, but the human cost, the loss of life, and the psychological trauma inflicted on the survivors is incalculable. The reverberations of these wars have been felt far beyond the borders of Israel and Palestine. They've stirred up sentiments around the world, leading to protests, diplomatic tensions, and even more conflicts. The international community has found itself divided, with various nations taking sides, further fueling the controversy. This conflict has become a global concern, a puzzle that the world is struggling to solve. It's not just about land or religion anymore. It's about human rights, justice, and peace. It's about finding a way to coexist, to share a home without turning it into a war zone. The Israel-Palestine conflict, with its numerous wars, has become a symbol of our collective failure to resolve disputes peacefully. It's a stark reminder that when diplomacy fails, the price paid is always in human lives and lost potential. Reaching a permanent solution to this conflict has proven to be a difficult task. Why, despite numerous attempts, has a resolution to the Israel-Palestine conflict remained elusive? This question has puzzled diplomats, politicians, and scholars for decades. The conflict, a product of historical, geopolitical, religious, and social tensions, is a Gordian knot that remains to this day untangled. The Israel-Palestine conflict isn't a simple dispute between two parties. It has become a complex web of interests involving multiple players, both internal and external. Each party has its own perceptions of justice, rights, and reality, often shaped by deep-seated historical narratives and religious beliefs. This diversity of viewpoints, coupled with the high stakes involved, makes achieving a fair and lasting resolution a daunting task. The role of international politics and diplomacy in this enduring conflict cannot be overlooked. Powerful nations and international bodies have often used the conflict as a chessboard for their geopolitical games, further complicating the situation. Diplomatic efforts, while well-intentioned, have often been hamstrung by the competing interests of different countries. The result is a stalemate, with peace initiatives often falling victim to political expediency and strategic maneuvering. Moreover, the conflict is deeply rooted in the identity and existence of both Israelis and Palestinians. It's not just about land or resources, but about the right to self-determination, the recognition of historical injustices, and the assurance of a secure future. These deeply personal and collective matters cannot be easily addressed through conventional diplomacy or negotiations. The Israel-Palestine conflict is also a symptom of broader regional and global issues. from the legacy of colonialism to the fault lines of the modern Middle East. Until these underlying issues are addressed, the conflict is likely to persist, with peace remaining an elusive goal. As we can see, the Israel-Palestine conflict is a complex issue, deeply rooted in history and fraught with geopolitical, religious and social tensions. It's a testament to the enduring power of history, the complexity of human relations, and the challenges of peacemaking in a fragmented world. Despite the difficulties, the pursuit of a just and lasting peace must continue, for the sake of those directly affected by the conflict and for the wider cause of global harmony.